Hi, this is Jeffrey Combs. You're watching MegaPodTastic, and you honor us with your presence.
Well, hello there. This is Gary Gnu from the Great Space Coaster, and you're watching MegaPodTastic.
We got something for you. We got something for you. You. It's something Megapod shiny. It's wrapped in Megapod plastic. Put on your Megapod jammy. It's time for MegaPodTastic. 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 MegaPodTastic.
Good morning, Megapodlings. It's Crazy Joe. Welcome to the first Monday that we're doing on Krazy After Dark. I know I said last week we're switching to Monday. Then I accidentally tweeted out that we are going live at 9 p.m. on Tuesday. So that was a mistake. I got to correct that. But I have a guest with me today. If you're into toys, I think he has the best toy-related channel on all of YouTube, though it's not really just toys. It kind of delves into the whole pop culture pantheon. So let's bring him on. From Toy Galaxy, we got Dan Larson here today.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
Thanks for being here, Dan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So,
happy to be here.
Now, you and I ran into each other at RetroCon, and you were not a guest at RetroCon. You just so now you're in Connecticut, right? You just drove down for the con?
A little bit further east, New Hampshire. See, I got my New Hampshire hat on.
Okay.
But yeah, we just drove down. I've been to RetroCon before, so we were familiar with it. And Rose and everybody that runs that show, Kevin, from Peg Warmers, a friend of mine that's always working that show as well. I've been a guest there before, but this year, given the way 2020 rolled out and COVID and everything, I wasn't sure. I hadn't been to any conventions or shows or anything like that, in 2 years. So I didn't really want to announce that I was going. I didn't want to be a guest. I just kind of wanted to sneak down, pop in, see if I felt comfortable in that environment, and then sneak out. Like if I wasn't comfortable, then no big loss. We just turn around and go home, and it's not a big deal. So yeah, you happen to catch me.
Yeah,
I was actually out on the floor.
Well, you can blame Tony for that. Tony's a friend of mine. Tony's one of our viewers. Tony's probably watching right now. Tony,
nice.
from RetroCon and Rose. But I was a volunteer and I was working the front desk, and he just said to me, he goes, I told him I'd wanted to have you on the live stream, and he said, "You saw Dan was here, right? Dan Larson?" I said, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Oh, he's out there somewhere."
Yeah.
So he blew your cover, so you can yell at him for that.
I was trying to decide if I should wear, I had a mask on the whole time. I was trying to decide if I should wear the branded one that actually says, Toy Galaxy on it, or just wear like a nondescript one and really try to be incognito.
That's the beauty of the mask. I run into my neighbors at the supermarket, and they're like, "Hi, Joe," and I'm like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah. It's the world we always dreamed of, trying to be superheroes, right? Living that dual life, that costumed identity.
Absolutely. We got Sean Lallen in the chat today. He says it's his birthday. Happy birthday.
Hello.
No. I stand corrected. He's asking for your favorite slasher movie and saying that his is Happy Birthday to me.
Well,
Sean,
happy birthday anyway. It's either coming up or it just passed. So favorite slasher movie? That's a producer Greg question. I'm not a big horror movie. I'm not a scary movie guy. Like, I'll take your superheroes, I'll take your science fiction. As far as slasher goes, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies were always fun. I've probably seen most, if not all of those. And I think I've seen most, if not all of the Friday the 13th movies. So probably one of them. I'm going to go with Freddy.
That would be mine too. But I don't know if you noticed, I did it by design. My little intro at the beginning, I used our bumper with Jeffrey Combs.
That's right.
Yep. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was the running gag with the Reanimator. I don't know if there was a specific video where that started that maybe I missed, but I'm wondering what the origins of the Reanimator gag are.
So that's a straight up producer Greg thing, because he is a big movie guy in general, but specifically, horror movies and that type of thing. So Reanimator has always been one of his number one favorite movies of all time. Loves the series, loved the original in particular. And so at some point, early on in the channel. He was editing a video. I don't remember exactly which one it first pops up in, but he had done a gag where we mentioned Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, by Kenner. And he had put in Reanimator instead of Mask. And so that just kicked off this running joke that every time Mask got mentioned, he would put Reanimator stuff in. And every time Reanimator stuff got mentioned, he would put Mask stuff in. And, or there would be like, we would name a bunch of things like, oh, everything that came, from 1985. And there'd be like 6 or 7 things that get named. And so he'd put those couple of things in, and then the rest would just all be Reanimator. It was just a silly thing.
Yeah, I think the Mask one is the first one where I noticed it. But then I was like watching a few of your videos in a row, and I got to one where every time you said 1985, Reanimator.
Yeah. Just one of those things.
James Borland says he watched some episodes of Father Ted. It's really funny. All right. I have not seen Father Ted. Jason says hello to you. Hello,
hey, Jason Riker. He's from RetroCon. I see him down there all the time.
And Mike Cass says, "What's a toy galaxy? A toy galaxy
he knows.
He
knows. Don't even justify that with an answer."
Oh, is this a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Okay. TW, good to see you. TW, good. I'm way behind on the chat. Our good friend Brandon loves your channel.
Excellent.
And Jason's says should have worn the sunglasses.
They're in the other room. They're in a drawer. Oh, he means to the show. Yeah, I should have thrown on the 2 sets of sunglasses and just pulled them off every once in a while. See if anybody noticed.
TW says he wasn't familiar with you till tonight, and thanks for introducing you. Now, look, that blows my mind because Dan's got a lot more subs than me. If you've heard of me and not Dan, I don't know.
Well, every show's got their fans. Everybody's got their dedicated fans.
Exactly. So let me ask you, first of all, do you consider your channel a toy channel or just a pop culture channel?
At this point, we're really pop culture. We did make the conscious decision a while ago to really move on from toys. We still like to try to have some connection to it, but it's no longer an essential factor to the videos we produce. I mean, we used to, we got our start doing toy reviews, 4 minutes or less action figure reviews. The Dan in the photo booth was a big part of it versus, this Wolverine figure versus that Wolverine figure. We had our retro reviews where we'd pull out figures from previous, 84, 85, whatever, and do all that kind of stuff. And we sort of built the audience through that action figure fandom. But then at a certain point, we realized we needed to start to grow beyond that. And we started to talk to the bigger franchises as opposed to just specifically about the action figures themselves, and to talk about where they came from, what were the sort of global what was the market like when those figures came out, why did it happen then, why didn't it happen later. And that just started to move us a bit away from the specifics of action figures. So at this point, if I was giving somebody the elevator pitch for our channel, I would say, yeah, it's called Toy Galaxy, but it's really more the galaxy than the toy. It's more the pop culture world.
No, I hear you. At first I thought this channel was a movie channel. I thought, oh yeah, we talk movies. And then I'm like, nah, we're pop culture because I do toy videos and I do. So I don't know.
So much of it, if you're looking at that Venn diagram, so much of it overlaps. You can't, like your shirt that you're wearing right now, it says Star Wars, but it's got the Enterprise on it. It's like, it's just so much of it overlaps. Do you want to stop at games? Do you want to stop at movies? Do you want to stop at books? Do you want to stop at comics? It's all one big thing.
Well, that's one of my friends who I've done a lot of collaborations with on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar with Cinema Sickness. He's always pushing me to do one thing. He says you should pick one thing, do one thing, and I'm like, because I do lunchbox videos. We do lunchbox reviews on here, lunchbox bunch. He says you should just be a lunchbox channel, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do. I'm not interested in doing one thing. I've got a lot, so I can't do that.
Yeah, Greg watches way more YouTube than I do, and he's always sort of been our channel manager. Like the real. He's not just editing the videos. He's planning out the schedule. He's doing the advanced research, and he's really the sort of pilot behind where do we want to take this thing and how do we grow it and how do we actually make it a business so that this is something that we can now, which we just recently got to a point where we can now both be full-time employed by Toy Galaxy, making these videos as our primary source of income. And it's his detachment from toys and action figures and that sort of thing that allows him to make those decisions. If it was left up to me, I would be like, but we haven't done, there's still 200 different kinds of stormtroopers that we haven't reviewed, you know? And it's like, there's no growth there. We can't grow from that. So yeah, he really honed us in and said, do one thing, do it over and over and over again, and never stop doing it until you die. That's how YouTube works, you know?
But I would say that's not what you're doing, though. Like you seem like you're hitting a lot of diverse topics, though.
We are, but we have established a unified sort of formula, and a sort of, there's a very, as much as we've tried to broaden it out, you know, like Choose Your Own Adventure we did a couple of weeks ago, we really weren't sure how that one was going to hit, because that was really sort of outside. You know, it's tangential, it's right there, but it is sort of outside. It's not a game, it's not, you know, action figures. There's no movie, there's no cartoons, you know, those just one little movie, but great cast too. But you know, no theatrical release or anything like that. So that was sort of like a, let's put this out there, let's see if this works. If this works, maybe that opens up another branch of things that actually work within this formula that we can cover without risking, you know, YouTube saying this isn't like your regular stuff, get out, you know.
Right. I will say my wife, she's not a toy collector at all, though she does have a great love of She-Ra, nostalgic love of She-Ra. But she's not really interested in toys, and she loves your channel. And
Excellent.
She said, it's your delivery. She said, I really love his the way he presents everything and gives you the whole history of everything. And it's great. I got my daughter hooked on it too. So
excellent. I appreciate that. That's the kind of feedback we like to hear, because we really did try to design a channel that, even if you didn't care at all about toys, even early on, even when we were a toy channel, we really tried to design a show that was just entertaining first. It was entertaining first, and then secondarily, it happened to be about toys.
Lisa Soares is here. Lisa says, hi, Joe and Dan. Two birds sit on a perch. One asks the other, do you smell fish? Waka waka. That's a great segue, since you're doing
boo. I think we're supposed to boo that joke. If that's a Fozzie joke, we're supposed to sit up here and boo.
Well, Lisa is a friend of mine through Muppet fandom. We're both huge Muppet fans. So I guess that is a natural question for you. Are you going to do a video on the Muppets?
Absolutely. Muppets are definitely on the list for sure. I would guess that we, you know, I'm not sure if we would break it down per movie, you know, like that might get a little redundant. Or if we would just tackle sort of the Muppet show, TV show, and then, you know, just see where we go after that. By the time we get to, like, you know, Muppets Take Manhattan, that might be a little repetitive.
Right. And Brandon says, sorry, I missed you. Brandon, I didn't know you were a chiller. I'm so sorry. I would have looked for you while I was there. But I was only there for one day. TW says you're already a winner for doing the Beetlejuice cartoon video, which, by the way, we were talking about before we went live. I was saying what an insane amount of edits that must have been. And
all power to Greg. He did that. We came up with the idea sort of simultaneously. Like it was one of those like telepathy moments where we didn't even talk about what the gag was going to be. We just both had already come up with that gag, and it was just like, okay, what do we have to do to execute it? You know, I'll buy the costume. I'll get it dirty. You know, I'll write the one script. Like originally I was thinking like I was going to do character voices, right? Like every time it switched over to Beetlejuice Dan, like I was going to be doing a Beetlejuice voice or whatever. And he was like, no, that's going to make the edit like a billion times harder to try to match on the voice. Like if you switch midline or something like that, he's like, no, just speak in your regular voice, do your regular delivery, and that'll make it a lot easier.
Did you have to record the entire video all the way through both times as Beetlejuice and as Dan?
Yeah, we basically, we've got our shooting process down pretty tight to where, you know, we usually don't even have like outtakes or anything like that. So if the video is like 12 minutes, that means we shot about 13 minutes of stuff. You know, there's just barely anything left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. So for that video, we shot it once through regular. We redecorated the set, and then we shot it through as Beetlejuice. And then he took care of the rest of it.
One thing I do really enjoy is how you keep all your like little bloopers and flubs in the videos. Like you'll do the quick edit, and that's just fun watching that.
So you know, the sort of personality of the channel for me, and the way I try to write it in my head, the voice I try to find, and I figured this out really early on. It's you have a report due and you forgot, you know, and it's like it's due tomorrow, and so you got to but at the same time I need to make sure I actually do deliver correct facts, you know, and you know we miss a few things here and there, whatever, but the voice is I've got to do this presentation and I'm not necessarily prepared. I want to actually be prepared, but I want it to kind of look like I'm not. So when those little flubs and stuff come through, that sort of adds to that sort of like, seat of my pants, like we're just kind of flying through this, it's almost a wink to the viewer, and I think that makes it a bit more intimate and just fun,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a lot of fun. Trey wants to know what you think of Astro Boy.
I have not seen everything Astro Boy related. In fact, I think there was a movie that came out early 2000s, maybe somewhere in there, a CG feature film. I definitely haven't seen that, but it's definitely something that's on our list, something we absolutely want to cover at some point. That's a long history there, going all the way back to the manga. There's a lot to cover there. So we would probably just sort of do the franchise in general, and then maybe leave that, like touch on the movies and stuff, but not go into detail with any one of them specifically.
And we got Robert Scholl telling me to get a better co-host than Perillo. Oh man, come on. Let's not rag on Dave. How was your Halloween? What did you dress up for this year? Dante said, well, I didn't dress up as anything. I don't know. Did you dress up as anything, Dan?
Yeah, I didn't, because I put so much effort into Beetlejuice that I was like, that's why I won't do 2 Halloweens a year. I won't do it. Like I got that out of my system. I was actually at a family event all weekend. And it was one of those sort of things where my brother lives, out of state. My other brother lives out of state. Just family from all around was able to get together over Halloween weekend. And so we kind of cheated and did Thanksgiving this weekend instead of Halloween. So it might have been a little weird if I'd shown up, like in full like vampire costume or whatever. I think people would have been cool with it, but it would have been a little weird for the photos.
I kind of want to wear a Halloween costume to Thanksgiving dinner now. That might see how my brother-in-law handles that. So Mike and Jason are both saying that you need to hit on the Muppet Babies.
I'll send that back to corporate and tell them we need to move Muppet Babies up the chart.
And my good buddy Greg from Greg's Game Room says he loves your Robotech video. Will we ever see a live action movie?
I believe there's one in production right now. We'll see. We'll see if that ever comes out. I honestly believe that both Harmony Gold, and unfortunately that's just a factor that you have to deal with for the rest of our lives. I believe that both Harmony Gold and Tatsunoko want to get that done and want to get that out there. So I think it'll happen. Whether or not it's going to be any good, I don't know.
And Lisa wants to know if you have any fun Muppet toys in your collection.
I definitely have the old Happy Meal toys. Loved those when those came out, with like Kermit on the little riding horse, and there's I think Fozzie has a little car, Fozzie has the tricycle, I think. I think they're the I can't remember if they're marks or if they were just like the television brand, but they're the really old. They're like 1 POA, like each of the characters just bends at the waist. They're like little sort of 4-inch Star Wars sized figures. Definitely have some of those. And then occasionally I'll have because I used to sort of be in a lot of my collection came from being a dealer a long time ago. And so occasionally I would buy a collection from somebody, or we'd go to an auction or something, and we'd get the vintage plush dolls and occasionally some puppets, but I don't have any of those currently.
The ones that bent at the waist that you mentioned, they're the ones that had the stick in the back, right? That you
yes, those.
Yeah, I definitely had those as a kid. I think I have a set still that I bought at RetroCon a couple of years ago, but it's buried in my closet somewhere if I have
and I don't think we currently have a Fisher-Price Little People Sesame Street, the play set that like gatefolds, opens up. But we definitely have some of the figures right now.
Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to go back and rebuy. I had them as a kid. Bobby's here, says, how you doing? I'm doing good, Bobby. How are you? Punk Nerd is here. Finally watched Muppet Haunted Mansion Saturday. Didn't do much for Halloween. Well, did you like the Muppet Haunted Mansion? That's the important question. I enjoyed it. Yeah, that's and I'll preemptively ask, because I know we're going to get it. We get it. Every guest I have, someone in the chat asks, how do you feel about Kermit's new voice? So I will ask you before the chat does.
So that's an interesting question, because while my wife and I were watching Haunted Mansion, I obviously I'm old enough to have known Jim Henson doing Kermit's voice before he passed away. So I grew up with Jim Henson. I watched Muppet Show when I was a kid, saw all the movies when they were released. So I was a newspaper delivery guy, on my bike throwing papers at doors when the headline Jim Henson has passed away, hit the papers. So I was around for that. And for years you had to deal with the it's off, it's not right, and I can't tell you what's wrong with it. It's just not right. And I got to say that at this point, when I go back and listen to Jim Henson doing Kermit's voice, it almost sounds wrong now. I hate to say it, but it's been so long that it hasn't been him that it almost sounds weird to hear him do it now.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware are you aware that there's a new puppeteer who's took?
Well, I knew that. I know Brian Henson had done it for a while, but I don't know when he stopped.
Brian Henson never did it. It was after
no?
Jim Henson died. Steve Whitmire took over, but Steve Whitmire left 3 years ago.
Okay.
So there's been a new guy for the past 3 years, and every chat, every live stream we get, someone asks, "What do you think of the new Kermit?"
It's it's inevitable. As long as these characters are going to last and be around forever, we had to get used to new Bugs Bunny, we had to get used to new Mickey Mouse, you got to get used to new Tigger, all this stuff. It's at some point,
absolutely.
All strength and positivity to Jim Cummings, but someday he's going to go. Like we're going to need a new Tigger and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, we're going to need another Tigger. Sean says watch Muppet stuff on YouTube. He's telling you to watch Muppet stuff on
Big
YouTube.
Muppet crowd tonight.
Yes. Dante says, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Favorite Halloween candy, definitely like all the weird stuff. Like as a kid, I loved getting like Smarties and Skittles. Skittles isn't so weird anymore, but any of that sort of like bottle caps, the sort of Willy Wonka kind of candies and stuff. Those were always great.
I always hated the Juju fruits because they would like stick my teeth together.
Yeah, no love for those. And I don't like regular what are they? Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah.
But the fruity flavored ones, those are great.
Jesse, I'm going to disagree with you here. Jesse says candy corn sucks. I love candy corn. I have a candy corn problem.
Not a candy corn fan. And my wife loves the little pumpkin ones, the pumpkin shaped ones. I don't like those.
Mike says you have to get used to a new Ronald McDonald. Do they don't use Ronald McDonald anymore though? Do they? I don't think so.
I don't know. We were watching some commercials the other night on our live stream, twitch.tv/Toy Galaxy, and a Ronald McDonald commercial came up, and I don't know if that guy was like union or if they just pulled that guy in off the street, but that was a weird voice. His makeup was kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe it was Halloween themed. So
you do live streams on Twitch then? I'll have to catch that. I don't use Twitch very often. So,
yeah, me neither.
We
went with Twitch. Like we had, when 2020 first started and a lot of people started live streaming for the first time because it was a way to sort of, retain some community and still have some interaction with, fans and stuff, or just people that, you just want to talk about the same stuff and enjoy the same stuff. A lot of people sort of closed that gap of like, okay, we need to start live streaming somewhere. And we started on YouTube. But we found that Twitch gave us a bit more functionality with, flexibility with just the kind of wacky stuff that we wanted to do. Greg found that it was easier to work over there than it was to work with YouTube.
And my friend Greg is asking what your favorite classic video game system is.
I would probably say most of my all-time favorite games are on one of three systems, and that would have been PlayStation, GameCube, and Dreamcast. Those three systems, probably like Desert Island, you got to pick one. I probably would have to go with GameCube, honestly. I played a lot of Rogue Leader. I played a lot of Soul Calibur, played a lot of Resident Evil. That was the first system, I'm pretty sure, that had the Resident Evil remake. And at the time, Resident Evil 1 was like my favorite game of all time. So, I've got no interest in like horror movies and slasher movies or anything, but I love the original Resident Evil and 2 and 3 and Code Veronica. After that, once it turns into a first person shooter, I'm all set with Resident Evil.
All right, Sean, he's answered your question. He doesn't go for horror movies.
I don't know for sure that I've even seen Halloween 3.
That's another question that comes up every week. So how much work goes into these videos? Are so like you hit every aspect. Like I don't think you leave a stone unturned in your videos when you get into the history of something. How much research goes into these? Like is that hours right there just doing the research and writing the scripts?
Yeah, and we break it up. Like, normally, like I'm usually writing the video like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we shoot on Friday. Greg's usually like editing Saturday-ish sometimes. But early in the week, like Monday, Tuesday, he's doing the research for next week's video. So he's usually a week ahead of me when I'm actually writing the script. And so he'll put in, half a day, depending on what the topic is, really just bringing this giant amount of information down to a manageable place that I can work with. And then when I come in on Tuesday, I take that manageable amount and try to squeeze it down even like even tighter here to make it something that we can actually shoot. That's not going to be an hour and a half long. And so we have to make a lot of decisions about like, is this part relevant? We always get comments like, you left out, you forgot. And it's like, no, we didn't leave it out. We didn't forget it. We edited it out. That's, you have to do that. This isn't a mini series. We got one video to knock this out. Need to keep it around 15 to 20 minutes. And that's just how it's going to be. So with the diverse topics you hit, there's got to be a few that you really just don't care about. Like you're not a like I would imagine. How hard is it getting through those videos? Like when you're having to write it's hard because so much of the voice and personality of the channel comes from me being able to sort of relate to it from a personal level. I love it. It's a much faster write, and it's usually a funnier video if I have something that I can tie into my own personal experience. So like Robotech, and I never want to be like mean or negative. So like growing up, my friends were into Robotech, my friends were into Thundercats, and I just didn't get into Robotech and Thundercats. Counter programming, I must have been watching Mask or GoBots or something else. Or, I remember Thundercats was on so early in the morning that I was like, I'm not getting up to watch that. I also remember it like time slot, it moved. And I remember being able to watch the theme song, and then I had to go catch the bus. So I wasn't going to record it or anything. So it's real hard when we do like Robotech. Like I just have no personal connection to it, but I know everybody is very passionate about it. I know it's important to toys and manga and anime and comics and all this stuff and how it ties into the 80s. So it becomes a bit of a chore. It becomes a grind for me to have to not only immerse myself in it so I can actually have some opinions, but to try to find my own sort of personal angle on why is this thing important and why should you be excited about it? Like how do I get myself excited about it when I haven't been for 30 years?
Right. I think I know the answer to this one. My friend Greg asks, Star Wars or Star Trek? I like them both.
I like them both. I'm old enough that I grew up in the time frame where there were only 3 movies for so long. That was it. You had 3 movies, but for Star Trek, you had the original series, you had Next Generation, you had 3, 4, 5 movies, 6 movies, whatever it was before, the first Next Generation movie Generations before that came out. There was already a lot of movies. So there was just all this other Star Trek stuff out there, but just this much Star Wars. So I think I was more into Star Wars, and I'm more into the mythology of Star Wars. I mean, you can see my Boba Fett shelf right here. There's not a single Star Trek figure out there. So, so if I had to choose, I would pick Star Wars over Star Trek, but I like them both.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed would be your answer.
I love Next Generation. I've seen all of Next Generation. Love it.
And Greg also says you put a lot of work. You obviously put a lot of work in. You make it look effortless. So kudos. Do you have? How do you go about picking your subject matter? Like, do you have like a list of things to hit, or do you just?
Yeah, very early on in the channel, we sort of started making a list, and it's basically just Greg and I both have access to that file, and whenever one of us thinks of something that we haven't covered yet, just throw it on the list. If somebody suggests something, throw it on the list if it's not already there. So at this point, that list is probably like 400 topics long. Everything from like we haven't covered the Twilight Zone. Like that's definitely something that is within our purview. We could definitely hit Twilight Zone, but we also haven't covered like Monopoly. so we could potentially hit that at some point, but anything we can think of, we throw it on that list. And then Greg, it's totally his call as far as like what he thinks we should do next. And I don't even really know what we're doing until I sit down to write it and look at that research. And he says, research is ready to go. This week we're doing this. Last week wasn't supposed to be Beetlejuice. I can't remember what it was going to be, but leading into last week, it was something else. And then like 2 days before before I was going to write, he was like, hey, I changed it. It's this now. It's Beetlejuice. I was like, okay, let's go.
I've had we started off doing a podcast. It was Dave Perillo and I were co-hosting a podcast that eventually we still have the podcast, but this kind of took over and became the main thing. And when we started, I made a list of people I wanted to interview. And one of the top names on the list was Paul Fusco, Alf.
Yeah, I know. And I listened to the show the other day.
Oh, the one I did? Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I just like hearing his voice. It's like whenever you hear those people who do like character voices, I'm like, I just want to hear his voice. Yeah.
It took me five years just to track him down because he's not really working in Hollywood anymore. He doesn't have a current agent. I couldn't find him. So when he comes on, I said, this is someone we've wanted to have on for years. And he says, so why didn't you call me? And I'm like,
I heard that. Yeah.
I'm like,
1-800 Alf. I didn't know who to call.
So anyway, Jesse asks if we're looking forward to Ghostbusters Afterlife. I am. I definitely am.
I am. Yeah, I'll see it eventually. I still haven't seen the 2016 movie, and that's not because of anything that happened with it. I just haven't seen it. I don't see a lot of movies, so especially now, like I don't really feel comfortable going to the theater. So I'll see it at some point. But like, I want to see Black Widow. I have HBO Max. I still haven't watched it. It's like I don't know what I'm waiting for. I'll get to it eventually. So I'm looking forward to it just from purely nostalgic sense. I hope it's a good movie. I hope it's got an interesting story. I hope it advances the world. I also hope it indulges, the nostalgia part, and that looks like it does based on the commercial, So I'm looking forward to it. I probably won't see it immediately,
Jason wants us to know you grew up in Japan.
Yeah, anybody who's seen any episodes knows that. Thanks, Jason.
I've always wanted to go to Japan, and my wife has been there with her ex-husband, and I'm like, oh, damn you were married to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, no, funny. I was actually they put up that life-size RX-78 in Yokohama, and we were actually planning to go. Like I was starting to make the actual plans to go visit it because I didn't get to see the first RX-78 statue that they had built. And I followed the whole production of the moving exhibit, and I was like, we are going. That's it. I've needed an excuse to make me move and just get these tickets and go. We're doing it. And then COVID happened. I was like, well, we'll put that on pause, pull out the Duolingo and start learning Japanese, But yeah, I lived there. We moved. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved there when I was 5. We left when I was 7. So just old enough to actually have actual memories of being there. But my experience in 1980 to 1982. It's a totally different place now. Like you wouldn't say like, oh, I've been to the US. I was there from 1980 to 1982. I'm sure it hasn't changed much.
So you're pretty tall, right? I met you in person. I think you're probably about as tall as I am. You were obviously young, 1982. I've been told that I will not. I've been told that I would not fit in Japan. People are like, you're too tall for Japan. You're not going to fit in.
Yeah. No, we lived in when we moved over there, the first house we lived in was an actual Japanese house in a Japanese neighborhood in Hayama, Japan. And we had, rice paper doors, tatami mat room that we weren't allowed in. My mom just wouldn't let us go in there because she didn't want anything to happen to that tatami mat. And one of my most vivid memories too, the most vivid one is my dad, who at the time, he was like 6'1", and when he would be on shore leave, so he was actually at the house, not out on the boat, sailing around. My most vivid memories are him constantly hitting his head on the doorways, just forgetting to duck because they were built for an average height of like 5'11", 5'10", and he's 6'1" and would just constantly be just hitting his head.
Jason's heading off, says have a good night. Thanks for stopping by, Jason.
Have a good night,
Appreciate it. And man, I had a
What a
question.
savory way to go.
I had a question for you that just went right out of my head. I don't remember what it was, but that's all right. It'll come back to me. Punk Nerd says Best Buy early 4K and blues are out. Oh, all right. Oh, is that for the early Black Friday stuff? All right.
$10 Blu-rays. Wow. I think I own like 6 Blu-rays, so I'm not the guy to talk to about that.
Yeah, well, I've got way too many in the closet.
For a while, I was doing that, like when we were still on like X2, 2 X-Men movies and like 2 Spider-Man movies and whatever, Hellboy 1, I was like, I need to own all of these. Like I need to recreate my comic book collection, but with, DVDs, and we were just getting them all. And then at a certain point, I was like, I can't keep up anymore. I don't care. It's just too many.
Absolutely. No, I can't blame anyone. I mean, I'm still pretty devoted to physical media, but I get why you wouldn't be. It takes up way too much room. So here's what I was going to ask you. I got it right off camera here. Hang on, let me grab it. I even did a video on this. I had an item that was my Holy Grail toy item that I was trying to get my hands on for a very, very long time. And I'm wondering what yours is. Mine was the Mr. T Mighty Car.
Oh, that thing.
Yes.
What a mess.
It was not easy to come by, but I finally got my hands on one.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, do you have a Holy Grail item in maybe one that you already acquired or one that you haven't gotten
my
your hands on
holiest
yet?
of Holy Grails, the thing I dreamed about for years and years and years and years, wasn't a toy. It was as the internet became, a more commonly used thing. I briefly worked at a company that was building a visual search engine. This was before Google, I don't know if you remember excite.com.
Oh yeah.
We had just developed a partnership with excite.com. And the whole idea was that you were going to be able to build a search engine based on it's basically Google's image search. You put in an image, it finds images that are like it, and you just whatever. And in working for that company, at some point I had gone down the rabbit hole of Star Wars weapons and learning more about the props and how, so many of them were built on or had parts from, they were kit bash, like, the Han Solo blaster is, a broom handle, what is it? The Mauser? It's not the Mauser. Yeah, Mauser. The Stormtrooper guns are like, German, army guns, all that stuff. And then finding out that, the lightsaber handles were from those old style, 1940s, 1950s, like flash bulb cameras that like the media would use. And those kinds of things just blew my mind because I would, I'd start looking at the pictures of Star Wars different. I start watching the movies different. You're like, he's just using a flash handle. It's, whatever. But at the same time, it works because they sold the whole illusion by having it in, in context in the movie. But my wife and I we were always going to flea markets and yard sales and auctions and stuff. Just it was fun, and I would always dream that one day I would find a flash handle, because on eBay people know what they are now. They go for like $500-600 or whatever. And I was like, someday there's gonna be that table, and he's gonna have like a toaster and an alarm clock and a shoe and a flash handle, So, and then it happened. We went to a flea market in Concord, New Hampshire. And like I was like, okay, fine, we're here. It's not really a great flea market or whatever. And so I walk in, and like the third table, there's exactly the old guy that I had dreamed about. Just he's got his whole camera collection there. Nobody's paying attention because nobody cares. And sitting right there on top is that flash handle. And it's the handle that got used for Luke's lightsaber. It's the one that obviously Rey used for for a while there. And obviously it's Anakin's second lightsaber, and it was right there, and I leapt at it, jumped at it, and picked it up, and I was like, how much do you want for this? I mean, how much do you want for this whole thing, like and I felt really bad because I love to haggle. I love that part of the game of like buying stuff, like, hey, if you didn't do your research, that's not my fault. I did my research. I know what this thing is. I know what it's worth, and I know what I'm willing to pay for it. And I'm always going to try to get it for as little as possible. And so I made him an offer thinking like, there's no way he's going to go for this. It's way too low. And he was like, he countered with like $10 more. And I was like, you drive a hard bargain, like gave him the money and just like ran as fast as I could. So that lightsaber handle, I think I have it on my shelf over here. Yeah. So this Graflex flash handle. This is basically the only thing it needs to be like screen accurate. There's supposed to be like a little like string of lights or whatever here. I'm missing the button that goes here. There's supposed to be a little activator button. And then on the bottom here, they use legit like windshield wiper blades as the handle. So I need to put some windshield wiper blades on here, and then it needs a D-ring on the bottom. But I don't want to modify mine. Like I don't want to do anything to it. I just want to, this is how I found it. This is how it is. And it's just, it's a lightsaber. It's like, I have a lightsaber, you know, at some point. So this was my holy grail forever. Now, I do have two current holy grails that are toy related. One is back in the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember like 21st Century Toys and like Universal Soldier toys, Ultimate Soldier toys.
Yeah.
They were like 12-inch figures, really highly detailed. 21st Century Toys did 3 3/4 stuff as well, like 4-inch scale things. And so they did like airplanes, and I have a couple of them. I have a P-38 Lightning. I have a P-51 Mustang and a F-4 Corsair. Love them, love them, love them. They're like huge airplanes, you know, like for your G.I. Joes and stuff. They also did an F-18, which the F-18 by itself is nice. And, you know, that's, for those that don't know, that's the basically the airplane that the Marine Corps and the Navy currently use, the F-18 Hornet. It's also the airplane that the Blue Angels use. And my dad was in the Blue Angels from 78 to 80. Different airplane then, but still, they made Blue Angels. But the airplane they made was such a limited, low run. They made like 1,000 of these things, maybe. It was exclusive to like one toy store that is no longer in business. And so when those things pop up, they pop up at like real live auction houses, and they go for like $1,000, $1,500 or whatever. You know, originally they would have been like $80 or something. So I saw one recently. Someone sent me a link after I had mentioned this last time, and it was on like Yahoo Auctions Japan. And I couldn't buy it because I didn't know what shipping was going to be. I wasn't ready to pay like, you know, $500, $750 for this thing. So that's one. So if anybody has a lead on one of those, let me know. It's big. It's like this big. You can't even see my hands. They're out of frame. The other thing is also from Japan. In the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, Poppy, P-O-P-Y, Poppy made basically their Star Wars action figures-ish. You know, 5 POA, you know, heads, arms, shoulders, hips, of Japanese superhero characters. So Ultraman and like the Power Ranger style characters, the Super Sentai, Masked Rider, Kamen Rider, those kinds of characters. And my favorite Super Sentai, and we've done a video on this, is Son Vulcan. There's only 3 characters, so you've got a easier chance of completing the team. But they're so old, they're so rare, they're so low run. The paint is always, it's like blue snaggletooth. The paint is always scratched off. It's like silver paint. They've got like a sticker for their belt buckle, it's ribbon for their scarves, you know. And then same thing. Last time I mentioned this, somebody sent me a link. It was on Yahoo Auctions Japan, and I was bidding on it, and I was like, I don't even care. I'm going to bid it up. And it was going up, and it was going up, and it was going up. And I was just like, I don't know how much this is actually going to cost me. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to me. And I bailed out way too early, and I have regretted it ever since. And it hasn't even been like a year. It's been like 5 months. Just every night I cry myself to sleep thinking about this thing. So I know those aren't super relatable, but those are my grails.
There you go. I know my friend. You two are acquainted, from what I understand, right? You know Dave Perillo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He his holy grail item is the Kraken from Clash of the Titans. He's always looking for one of those at a decent price.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, you can find those.
Yeah. He doesn't
just want to pay for it.
Yeah. He doesn't want to pay like $700, but
yeah, no.
Yeah,
I took a picture actually at RetroCon that weekend. I took a picture of Monstar from Silverhawks, of Monstar's like squid ship. And I was like, I'm not even going to look at the price. I posted it online, and a lot of people were like, how much was it? How much was it? How much was it? And I was like, I don't even care, because I wasn't going to buy it. Whatever the price was, it was way out of my price range.
In regards to the Mighty Car, TW says, note, keep Cronenberg away from toys.
Yeah.
So
that's some body horror there.
we are going to be joined now by a friend of mine from another great YouTube channel, from the Poindexter Lounge. Mr. Enosh Fee has joined us.
Hello.
What's up? Hey, Dan. Nice. It's great to meet you, man.
Absolutely great to virtually meet you.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome. Dude, you so my name's Enosh. I've known Joe for a little while, and I've got this channel called Poindexter Lounge, and it's me and my family. We all collect together. My wife, my 3 sons, and me. We're like an army going out to thrift shops and antique stores and everywhere in between. And you inspired me a couple years ago because I found your Boba Fett video.
Oh.
And I'll tell you what, man, like I've been collecting for like 20 years. I mean, it all started with like one little shop. It all started because I had my original Boba Fett.
Nice.
And it just kind of from there, like it grew. Like with episode 1, my cousin was going out at midnight and was like, hey, do you want me to pick you up anything? I was like, nah, I'm good. And then I was like, you know what? Pick me up one of those Darth Mauls. Yeah, that Darth Maul character looks cool, right? And so he gave me that, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Well, then I saw the movie. I'm like, well, I kind of need an Obi-Wan and a Qui-Gon, and so then I just kind of kept them in the package because they were going to be worth something, back in those naive days.
You just kept sliding down that hill.
And then it's like like one day I got really brave and I took Darth Maul out of the package and I had like one little shelf, and then it was like 2 little shelves, and then now it's my entire house. Our entire house is like a pop culture. This is the toy room, and I'm surrounded by everything. And so, but I have the most awesome wife because she collects. So like, it's just a cool house.
That can
be
dangerous.
Yes. I love kids coming over. Kids love coming over and everything. But I found your Boba Fett video, and, I had gotten to the point where it's like, I collect a lot of different things, a lot of Star Wars. I got back into G.I. Joe. I always say, like, if something happens, like you will get back what you put in. I had all my G.I. Joes from when I was a kid. I was raised by my grandma. I was an only kid for the longest time. And I just had tons of stuff. Well, back in like 2000, 2001, when nobody wanted that stuff, my ex-wife was like, you need to get rid of this stuff. It's sitting in our basement. And I was like, okay. And I worked with this guy, and he's like, hey, my son just got into G.I. Joe, the old cartoon. I was like, that's awesome. He's like, but we can't find any toys. I was like, dude, I got a ton of stuff. So I come in with like all this stuff, and I sold it all to him for $35.
Oh yeah, that was a karma deposit, right?
Yes. Well, and it did come back because a few years ago I started getting back into it. I started recollecting that stuff. I actually got a flag for $200 from a guy.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it does come back, And I'm like you. People always look at me and say, like, you got all this stuff, but like, I'm so cheap. And people don't even realize, like, I'm, like you said, constantly like haggling and doing this stuff.
That's part of the fun.
Exactly. But, I had just kind of reached this point, like, with just everything, because I was into so many things as a kid. And, I listened to you talk about stuff, and even listening to you tonight. Like I get what you're saying. I'm like, I'm on that same wavelength with you.
Yeah.
And, but when I saw that Boba Fett thing, I was like, man, I hadn't really thought of like why I love collecting so much. It was the thrill of the hunt and all that stuff. But when you started talking about, like all these characters, all these figures being on adventures with kids all over the place. And I was just like, man, that's cool. And then I saw, I think you had maybe like 200 or something like that at the time, 200, 300, whatever. What is it up to now?
It's like 550.
Is it? So I'm at like 125.
All right, cool.
Right. And so like, it's funny because when I do my show, people are always asking about them because I always seem to have a stack of like Boba Fett's around.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll go places and people don't want to sell them to me because they're like, oh, this is broken. You don't want this. And I'm like, no,
I do want it.
Exactly. Like, it's so crazy. You really inspired me to that because it's like, you don't think about it. Like I had one guy I bought one from, like his stepdad had died and it was his stepdad's and it had really meant something to him. And so I ended up like highlighting it on the channel and like talking about it and stuff. And then, and I get them burnt, crayons melted on them.
Because honestly, like the mint condition, they're not a dime a dozen, but the phrase applies.
Yeah.
You see them mint all the time. Perfect paint, crisp edges, all that stuff. There's no story there.
Yeah.
This guy's got a hook hand and a burn on the side of his
Right.
head. Rocket's missing, and you're like, that guy probably went flying on like a kite or something,
right.
Fell out of a tree, just there's a story there. I love the grimy ones, the worst.
Yes.
Love it. Those are my favorite.
And I found this one. This one came in and I didn't even know it because they didn't show the back of it. But like this one came in. Whoop.
Oh, sorry. I was I was trying to make you bigger.
It says Max on the back of his head.
Yeah. He actually had written his name on the back, and I was just like, man, that is so cool. And I just keep going back to your video, man, and you guys have the best channel. I love the way that you guys talk about stuff. I mean, even as somebody like me who's been collecting for over 20 years now, I love your approach to things, because you guys don't get caught up in a bunch of drama and that stuff. You guys are just so chill, and you inspired me to, because I don't army build anything.
Yeah.
And this has become a thing now. Now I do want to ask you a question though with Boba Fett stuff. So, because I know a lot of people give you their Boba Fetts now. I mean, you get Boba Fetts, but now with the Mandalorian, it's gotten crazy. Like, the prices have just it's become literally a labor of love to try to find any thing. I had one guy, the Boba Fett was completely burned on one side.
Yeah.
I mean, just charred. And the guy was asking like $100 for this Boba Fett. And I'm like, dude, it's burnt. And he's like, what do you mean? It looks great. And I'm like,
this half's mint.
Yeah. Like what? I mean, now that you're up to that many, I mean, do you actually actively seek them out now still, or do you just kind of let the people give them to you now?
Not the way I used to. No. There was absolutely a time where, I had a notification set up on eBay, and I would search 3, 4, 5 times a day, sort by newly listed,
Mm-hmm.
I also had a friend who has a shop, and we had a deal for a while there where he was buying collections and collections and collections. And the deal was, any Boba Fetts he had, regardless of condition, Taiwan or whatever, Hong Kong didn't matter, he would sell them to me for $10 a piece.
Oh wow!
Now this is like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So after his shop had been around for a while, he was like, I don't know how much longer I can honor this $10 deal. And I was like, you have sold me so many already, it's fine.
That's cool.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, I would take them any condition, missing an arm, missing a head, missing a leg, whatever. There's some really good ones in there, but there were also a lot of rough ones. So that helped. But yeah, over the years, and it's not because I had a bunch of them. A lot of people are like, you're cornering the market, you're driving the price up. I'm like, they made 5 million of these things.
Right.
Such a drop in the bucket. It doesn't even make a difference. But yeah, now, I've sort of moved on to a place where it's like, okay, if we go to a show, if we go to RetroCon, if we go to ToyCon New Jersey, wherever, I want to make sure I get at least one to say this was the one from that show. I didn't mind paying $75 for it or whatever, because they are expensive now. I'll say, what's your worst one? Right. Get the worst one you have, please.
Right.
But we do still try to find them, because that is the other part of it that's important to me, is that each one does represent, a time, a place, a story, something that we did, someplace we went, somebody we met, those kinds of things.
Yeah, that is amazing too, man, because that's kind of become the same thing with us. We'll go on a trip, we'll go on vacation, and it's you find these random Boba Fetts in the weirdest places and the weirdest things. And it's but as soon as that pops up, my son will come running from across a toy shop or something. They're like, Dad, I found one bin of, misfit toys. And it's
yeah.
Man, that's awesome, man.
That's great.
Now, Enosh, you mentioned the name, the Max written on the back of the action figure. That's one thing that when we do Lunchbox Bunch, Dave Perillo and I love when we find a name written in the lunchbox, because we get most of our lunchboxes used. And we always say, if this was your lunchbox, please contact us. We want to know if we've got your lunchbox. We'll read out the full name first and last.
That's cool.
So, and that's a good segue, Dan. Do you collect lunchboxes? I have seen lunchboxes on the shelf in the back of your videos.
There was a while where we were actively collecting them, but that's definitely a collection that takes up a lot of space real fast. And talk about prices that went nuts for a while there. I haven't looked at them in a long time. I don't know if they're still nuts, but they were nuts for a while.
Well, the better the condition, that's why we tend to beat up ones. We don't mind and like you said, there's a story there. Did some kid was some kid getting bullied and he beat someone over the head with his lunchbox? You never know.
The wear just comes from the use,
Right.
The handle's all worn down. It went through the dishwasher 50 times, the pudding spilled out of it, and they rinse it out, whatever. I absolutely have collected all the metal lunchboxes that I had when I was a kid. So any of the ones I can remember actually owning and eating my chips and my carrots and my pudding out of whatever every day, those are the ones I absolutely wanted to make sure I had. And then there were a few that I didn't know existed that I was like, I would have had that as a kid, so I need to get that one. Like the Battle of the Planets one was absolutely one that I can remember. Like my brother had it first. It got handed down to me and carried that one around forever. So my wife found that one at like a flea market or something. Like I said, back is pretty rough. Front looks still pretty good. Sides are in good shape. I don't care that it doesn't have the thermos. It looks like it could have been the one I had as a kid. Like that's the life that it has in it, so I don't mind it. But, 2 different G.I. Joe ones. And I think we've got like E.T., Fraggle Rock, Dark Crystal. What a weird, I'm going to be traumatized every day at lunch and bring out my Dark Crystal lunchbox.
Right. Right.
And then we've got some I can't remember. I think I've got a Marvel Superheroes, Blue Falcon, all that kind of stuff. E.T. we have, I think.
I'm always fascinated by the weird ones. Like they're like the one we keep making fun of. We keep making fun of the Exciting World of Metrics. There was a lunchbox called the Exciting World of Metrics. It's a math lunchbox. We're
nice.
Like, what kid was like looking at all the like lunchboxes and said,
I'm going to take a break from school and work on some multiplication problems.
Right. Yeah. You brought up an interesting thing, Dan. They're like toys and toy lines and cartoons and stuff that were based on like really adult themed shows, right? Like R-rated shows. Like we were talking about this yesterday, even on a Halloween stream, because I was dressed up like Freddy Krueger, and I was remembering going to school and like this kid had the rubber knives and stuff, and I remember like the kid getting in super trouble, but like we all knew what that was.
Yep.
And we all watched these movies that we probably had no business watching.
I mean, that's part of the reason they make them, is because they know they're going to get kids, wanting to sneak in to see them, and that's really where that long-term influence is going to happen. The kids that were a little bit too young to see it, like Freddy scared the crap out of me. I was too young to be watching Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But because of that, it made such a deep impression on me that it's still a scary character today. It's fine. I can watch it though.
There was the pull string Freddy talking doll from the people who brought you Talking Pee-wee.
I came across what was in fact I think I saw it on Toy Galaxy, the first Freddy one where it was like the dress up guy,
Max Effects.
So I know where there's one right now. Like I know where there's one right now, and I've almost bought it because I saw it on your channel, and then like I saw it at like we have this place called the Mega Mall, and it's just all front stuff where people just sell their own stuff, and it's just way too much. It's just like I want it, but it's just like no, even my wife.
Anytime I see it, it's usually boxed, and it's like $200.
Yeah, it's just like I want it, but you know what? There's a lot of other stuff I want too. So.
And Mike's asking who would win in a fight: Sun Vulcan versus Red Hawk versus Ryu Ranger.
Definitely Sun Vulcan, without a doubt. Yeah, Vol Eagle, kick them both to the curb. It's 3 Super Sentai shows.
There you go.
And he's got to take my word for that because he hasn't watched Sun Vulcan yet.
Dan, now you got to take a lot of flack for opening some of the stuff that you open. Do people give you a hard time?
I've never opened anything like super rare or anything like that.
No, because you were almost breaking. I open a lot of stuff, but like I got that Tron set.
Oh
the new, and when you opened that, I was living vicariously through you because I want to rip into that so bad, and I just can't.
The only things I won't really open are things that are like, really, really old. I don't love it when vintage stuff gets opened. If you bought it, it's up to you. You own it. Do whatever you want with it. But, to me, I'm like, leave that one in the package and just get another one. Because if it's in the package, then you can sell that and afford to get one loose. You don't need to open it. I get wanting to have something that's like never been touched as well. Like you're the only person. I get that draw. But I don't need to be that guy to be the one to open it up.
I got to interview Dave Bautista this year. And
nice.
While I was interviewing him, he was looking at the stuff behind me and everything. And I kind of panned the room and stuff, the Star Wars stuff. And he has an Ewok village that's still in the package.
Nice.
And he was telling me, he's like, I just want to rip into it so bad. He's like, Enosh, he's like, you got to come over one day and we'll just rip into it together. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know if I want to rip into that, man. And then he tweeted, like when we were done,
free tomorrow. If you want to do that tomorrow, that's fine.
Right? I know. I
will rip that open for you.
When we were done, he got it out and he tweeted me with it, and he's just like, here it is. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. Man, it's so cool.
Occam's Razor is saying they used you to make Mr. Fantastic's Marvel Legends head sculpt.
They may have. the one particular head kind of has a vague resemblance, but I certainly use it as a custom Dan Larson head, and potentially the closest we'll ever get to me actually having a Marvel Legends, head cast of myself. It's absolutely close enough, but I do feel the pressure to like not shave my beard so that I match the figure.
Well, it is 9 o'clock, so. Jesus Christ, would you look at the time? Knew I'd get more use out of that today.
Yeah.
So Dan, hey, I want to thank you for being with us. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
And anyone who is not subscribed, Toy Galaxy is the channel. I got the link in the description down below. And I don't have the link in the description down below for the Poindexter Lounge, but you can find that by typing in Poindexter Lounge, and you'll find it. You'll find it, trust me. And Dan, do you still have the second channel?
We do, yep. Toy Galaxy 2 TOO, so more also, not sequel necessarily. We haven't posted much on it recently. With the move to the new space, I've really been focusing all my extra time that would have been on videos for that channel. Getting the new place set up, but we'll get back to it.
Well, hopefully, I don't know if you're going to be at RetroCon next year, but I'd love it if you are, if you have the time and if you're willing. Would you want to do a lunchbox video with Dave and I?
It is very likely. I will probably be there. Hard to say. Do they do that? Is that a twice a year show?
Once a year. So it'll probably be September.
Okay.
September.
Yeah. Well, it is very likely that we'll be there.
All right. Well, we'd love to have you back anytime you want to come back.
Well, thank you very, very much.
All right.
Great meeting you, Dan.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
Everybody. Oh, wait, Gary's got the stream ending joke for us. How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. Thank you for that, Gary. All right, everybody. Back next Monday at 8 o'clock. My guest is Dave Sundstrom from the Good Stuff channel. He talks vintage television from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you haven't seen his channel, it's great. So be here next Monday at 8, not Tuesday at 9, as I accidentally tweeted out earlier tonight. So I'll have to get that corrected. Everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks, Dan. And keep wearing those pajamas. And of course, I'm not ready to go to the end credits yet. So
come on, you could do it, Joe.
Yeah, I can do it.
Phil.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the plastic feet.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Tell everyone you meet.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the back door flap.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Don't open it, a trap.
Oh no,
it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander Adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas.
Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now we're having fun.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now the song is done.